So welcome, my friends, to Quality Management, the Daily Drill. We're going to take a look at some of the commonalities in quality. And in quality, we have three processes. Very straightforward on the surface. So I'm going to show you different layers of thought concerning this. So think about it. You've got planned quality management. And from here, you get a quality management plan. But as usual, don't forget that quality management plan is really part of your project management plan. So develop project management plan pretty much gets your quality management plan, becomes part of the project management plan. Okay? And ultimately, this becomes an input to manage quality. So when you take a look at manage quality, you see the quality management plan, which is part of the project management plan, is an input to manage quality. See that? Something else you need to be aware of on this one is as follows. Plan quality management gives you quality metrics. And these quality metrics, they're also an input to manage quality. That's not the end of the story. As usual, as you've seen in the other videos, we have control quality. Guess what happens? These quality metrics also go into control quality. Okay? That's not all. In addition to this, we have a feedback loop from control quality into manage quality. Why? Because we have quality control measurements. Those quality control measurements go into manage quality in the event of problems with your deliverable. Still along these lines, there's more detail. And one of the things I want to bring to your attention is in 8.2. So this is 8.1, this is 8.2, this is 8.3. If you take a look at 8.2, real quick, 8.2, let's find it. Let's see the outputs of 8.2. One of the outputs of 8.2 is test. Hang on, let me go there. 8.2, page 288. Test and evaluation documents. And if you go to 8.3, you see that there is also a feedback loop here. I'm going to make it big so we can write it in full. Test and evaluation documents. See that? You got your TED, test and evaluation documents. So if you take a look at this breakdown really carefully, you see plan quality management interacts with develop project management plan, that interacts with manage quality, manage quality interacts with control quality, then you've got a feedback loop of quality control measurements going back into manage quality. But this is not the end of the story, my friends. In fact, the story is a much more robust story. Okay? For those of you on YouTube who are watching, because I see a couple of folks might be on, if this stuff makes sense, I want to know. If you got questions about it, you can feel free to put them in the chat. But I want to timestamp it. It's 10:06 on the East Coast. So if you're watching at 10:06 on the 28th of October, you can ask a question because it is live. That's the whole purpose, so that you can ask questions. All right. So beyond this, my friends, there is a lot more that goes into the concept of quality. And a lot of it is happening on an alternate universe. So I'm going to build what happens and gets plugged in here using a different color so that you know I'm talking about a different set of events. So the different set of events starts off with direct and manage project work. Direct and manage project work gives a direct feed into control quality in that we have deliverables. What happens in control quality? Those deliverables are going to be checked. And what do we get out? Out of this process control quality, we are going to get an output known as verified deliverables. See that? And these verified deliverables, they are going into the process known as validate scope. See? And out of validate scope, again, we get an output known as accepted deliverables. And these accepted deliverables, as I showed you on the very first day we started these data flows, the accepted deliverables are going to go into close project or phase. And then what happens in close project or phase? In close project or phase, you are going to get an output known as FPS, final product service or result transition. You're going to get an output known as final report. So when you think about how quality comes into play, there is quite a large web of events, my friends. And the purpose of me showing you this is for you to actually do this brain dump yourself and understand the interconnection points. That's the whole purpose. If you don't do it, if you're just watching, then it's defeated. You need to follow along. Every day, open up the video, follow along, draw out your data flows yourself. That's why I'm doing this. It's to help you. I'm trying to make life a little bit easier for those of you who are trying to get certified in 2020. You can do it. That's why I'm doing this, to help you. So we've done integration. I hit you with scope that same day. A few hours ago, I hit you with cost. Probably later on tomorrow, I'll hit you with schedule. And I'm giving you the baddies, the big bad ones that everyone's like, oh, schedule or cost or risk. No, we're going to take them down. What I'm showing you here is what they don't teach you in the PMBOK guide. This stuff is not in the PMBOK guide. These interrelationships and interconnection points, they're not in the PMBOK guide. But you know what? You could get these kinds of questions that mix up knowledge areas. So did you see how I plugged in integration into the mix? And then I plugged in scope into the mix? And then I plugged it back into integration. See? I need you to do this daily. Don't kid yourself that this is not important. It is so important. This is what has helped so many of my students ace the exam, so many of them. See, like today we heard from Michelle. Michelle is now PMP, never has to go through this ever again. She's done. That's the whole idea. You get done and you'll be extremely happy. All right, now what I'm showing you here is one layer of understanding of quality. There is more to talk about, okay? I want to show you the other pieces. So if we zero in here to this interaction, there is more to it that meets the eye. And I cover this in my PMBOK guide mainline videos, but let's plug back in here and talk about what else could happen. What if your customer at this point rejects this verified deliverable? You're not going to get accepted deliverables. Instead, you're going to get a change request. And that change request, what happens to it? The change request goes to the process known as perform integrated change control. Let's cycle it back into PICC. So I'm going to move this down here so that you can see what happens. Assuming accepted deliverables does not happen there, you got to take that change request and put it into perform integrated change control. And what could happen in perform integrated change control? A couple of things could happen. You could get a rejected change request, which is really more like documented in the change log and not explicitly called a rejected change request. In that case, I would want you to data flow this just for your sanity's sake, that this will go into a change log. The result will go into a change log ultimately. But that's not the only thing that happens. See, this change log is an important piece that needs to be communicated in managed stakeholder engagement, because your stakeholders need to know about the status of change request. So you see change log under project documents. It's really a project document, but I'm trying to elevate its importance so that you understand what is done with this change log. Customers, sponsor, other stakeholders, they need to know what is the state of that change request. Now, in addition to going into the change log, you could also have a loop from here. So it's not just a change log, but you could get going into direct and manage project work and approved change request. See that? You got an approved change request going into direct and manage project work. Why? Because you need to take action on implementing that approved change request. Now let's zoom into this for a second, because I want to bring to your attention, under change request, you do need to remember the parameters around change request. Okay? So we have preventive action, corrective action, defect repair, and updates. And under updates, you need to remember that these could include project documents updates and project management plan updates. Let's bring this to the side so you can see it. So when you're reading this stuff, remember in the PMBOK guide in 4.3, these are broken out. CAPADRU, corrective action, preventive action, defect repair, updates. So you got to remember that piece. So let's take a look at what we've done so far. Over the past 10 minutes thereabouts, we have been taking a look at the quality management knowledge area. And there's a lot to be spoken of when it comes to quality. Quality is a rather beefy area. I know they're just 3, but it's rather beefy. All right, the next set of things that happens is the approved change request that I show you coming out of here, coming out of PICC. We could have this approved change request making a trip from here. We could have it coming back into control quality. Why? Because as you're implementing the approved change request, you need to check to make sure you really did it well. So you implement the approved change request in direct and manage project work, but you check to make sure you implemented it well in control quality. Another journey that this makes, I'll just show you really quickly. If you follow me to 12.3 in the PMBOK guide, in 12.3, you will observe on page 496, it says, approved change requests can include modifications to the terms and conditions of the contract, including the procurement statement of work, pricing, and descriptions of the product, service, or results to be provided. It goes on and on. There's quite a bit of stuff there. But what am I trying to show you? There's one more place that approved change request goes, and it also goes to control procurements. All right, so you got to know how all this stuff fits together. For those of you just come in, we started off with plan quality management. Then we moved into manage quality. Then we moved into control quality. Then we moved into validate scope, and we talked about direct and manage project work, feeding control quality. And then we talked about accepted deliverables being one of the things that could happen. But if that doesn't happen, then you're faced with these change requests which need to go through PICC. And I did mention you could have CAPADRU, corrective action, preventive action, defect repair updates. It's part of the puzzle. And that's pretty much it. That's how it rolls, my friends. And that concludes our daily drill for quality. Now, do you have questions about any of the things that I have gone through? You'll find the chat box. It's a live webinar here, so if there are questions, I want to take them before we jump off. I know some of you are really desperately trying to do this, and I really wish you all the best. I hope it works out. I hope these videos that I put up will help you, because 2021 is just going to go crazy with the PMP. January 2nd, crazy stuff begins to happen. The exam changes. It's going to throw a lot of you off. You know that. That's why I'm trying to help. I'm doing my bit. Your bit is to take these videos and do the brain dumps. Study, 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 right? For those of you that are just all over the place, you got no schedule. You want to think about the 40-day schedule, 40 days to PMP exam success. You can still jump on this schedule, okay? To jump on this schedule, go on down to www.pmsucceed.com, okay? This is my last-ditch effort to get many of you that have started on the journey. You've had hiccups, you picked yourself up, you've fallen back down, you picked yourself up. This is my way of helping you. These data flows and this final course of 2020. This course ends on the 12th of December. So if you want to get certified this year, you can still come on board and buckle up and let's do this thing. I don't want it to be said that, oh, if I had known about Phil's course, I would have passed. No, I'm telling you now. So jump on, let's do it. Okay? Before we round up here, I want to go one more round showing you this quality aspect because it's huge. It's huge. So we have direct and manage project work. Let's go for one more round. Direct and manage project work. This is another data dump that I need you to do. Direct and manage project work is going to feed control quality. Just get that straight first. What is it feeding it? It's feeding it deliverables. Okay? Deliverables is being fed into control quality. Just get that straight first. Now, let's assume in control quality the deliverable is being checked, but the lady or the man on the conveyor belt or the people in the quality control team, they discover a defect. There's no way this widget can go to the customer. No way. Oh, well, we're going to have to spend $20,000 more to fix the widget. Why don't we just try our luck and see if the customer accepts it? No. That is against quality. We need to reject the deliverable at this point in control quality. So instead of getting a verified deliverable, we get a change request. A change request from the control team. And that change request is going to go to the perform integrated change control process. Why? Because someone needs to look at the change request. It could be the CCB, it could be some other entity like a portfolio steering committee, it could be the sponsor, it could be the customer and the sponsor together with the project manager. So you need to understand not every change request is reviewed by the change control board, but every change request is reviewed by an entity that is responsible for reviewing those change requests. You get what I'm saying? So just remember that. Now this change request from PICC, assume we get some sort of approval. Let's make it smaller so you can see what's happening there. So assume that we get an approval. We get an approved change request. Approved change request. It goes back into direct and managed project work, but don't forget, it also goes into control quality. Remember, today is our quality day. So you got to remember that. Okay? All right. Beyond this, what else happens? Okay, it goes back into DMPW, as I said in the beginning. What happens at this point is you redo. So, again, your deliverables get sent to control quality, but this time, there's a change. There's a change. Something else is going to happen. Instead of getting a change request, we're going to get something different. And I'm going to show you what that is in a second. So I want you to get to the point where you can dump this easily, okay? Direct and manage project work gives deliverables to control quality, but at this point, something else happens. We get a verified deliverable. And the verified deliverable is going to make a trip to validate scope. And in validate scope, the customer takes a look at the deliverable, the verified deliverable, and says, no. What does their no signify? Their no signifies non-acceptance. So, because there's non-acceptance, you are going to get a change request. And again, the change request goes to PICC, Perform Integrated Change Control, and hopefully you will, at that point, get an approved change request, ACR, and that goes into direct and manage project work and control quality. So let me show you that up here. That is the loop again, just showing you the approved change request has been generated. It was rejected at validate scope. Not control quality this time, but validate scope. All right, let's go for the last round. This is the final round where we get full acceptance on both sides. Direct and manage project work, control quality. You already know the drill. Validate scope. Direct to manage project work gives deliverables to control quality. Control quality gives a verified deliverable to validate scope. This time we have an accepted deliverable. Get it? Let me make that more clear for you. See it? Okay? What else? At this point, my friends, you could also think about this feedback loop that is often forgotten. And this feedback loop is from control quality. And it goes into manage quality. Why? Well, as the deliverable is being created, you need to think about the many things that are happening at the same time. As a deliverable is being created from direct and managed project work, you have these audits happening as part of managed quality. Managed quality happens in the background. That is where we try to optimize our processes and our procedures, be they on the project from a project management perspective, or even in the world of quality from a technical perspective. It's happening all the time. So as you're creating that deliverable, you should be checking the process. And that is the difference between managed quality and control quality. See that? What is the difference? Managed quality is process. Okay? Control quality is all about product. Managed quality, checking the process. Control quality, checking the product. There's a difference between the two. There's a difference between observing how the work is being carried out. There's a difference between trying to minimize waste versus checking the product. And that's the difference between managed quality and control quality. So going back to this image here, my friends, there's managed quality happening in the background. Okay? I know it may not be explicit, but it is happening in the background. Let's see. I think some of our friends are here. Mutaz, how are you, Mutaz? I'm looking forward to you getting certified very soon, my friend. Good to see you. And NC Worker, I want to see a photo of your PMBOK guide one of these days, because it's going on how many months now? 2 months, 3 months? And James, how are you, James? James, remind me, you've taken this exam, right? You're now a PMP guru. Remind me, I tend to forget from time to time. But it's good to see all of you and everyone else who's on the call. So today we're talking about quality. For those of you who just arrived, we've been talking about quality for the past 20 minutes or so. And it started off with this. So I showed you one flow there, and then we went to another set of flows. And this is our final flow for the night. And I just wanted to show you what happens when eventually you do get approval or acceptance. So in validate scope, right here, this is where we get an accepted deliverable, and ultimately it goes to close project or phase. And as an output of this, we get the final product, service, or result transition, and we get the final report. All right, so I've shown you this in quite a number of ways. The aim is to get you to recall. I need you to recall. I need you to do these brain dumps. Look, after 2021, a lot of this stuff probably won't even be used. This is a time to do the brain dump, anchor it into your subconscious, your conscious, and start helping your company optimize their project management. But of course, you need to get your PMP along the way, right? So do your PMP thing and do it. Yes, James. Oh, thank you. Good to see you, and thanks for stopping by, even as a PMP. It's always a pleasure to see our PMP gurus visiting us. Very good. All right, are there any questions about quality or any of the things I've spoken about? Anything throw you for a loop, or does it make sense? Okay, it seems like we just need to go back and watch it over again so that it can sink in. All right. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining. And I am going to end the webinar because it seems like there are no questions. I did such a good job. There are no questions. That's okay. Just don't forget, those of you who are struggling, you know you need help, go on down to the Praizion site. Sign up for one of those programs. Okay. Mutaz is one of our students. He's been on that program. He's been on the live training. I know he's going to do great. For those of you that haven't, go on down to the website, okay? Praizion.com. And as there are questions, you can always put them in the comments. All right?